What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we have an interesting one. We have a Marillion Top 10, but not just a Marillion Top 10, a specific one brought to us by our patron, longtime supporter of the channel, Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. And if you'd like to support us like Joseph does, check out our Patreon link below. The patrons make this thing run. Also check out our social media, as well as our Facebook group. Lots of great music discussion every single day. Instagram, you know the drill. It's all below. This is not just the Marillion Top 10. It's from Holidays and Zealand Revisited 10th Anniversary 2011 Marillion Convention. They have conventions every year. Most of you watching this are Marillion super fans, I imagine, so you're going to have to forgive the newbie. I did do a song reaction. I'm a little bit, as in a tiny bit familiar with Marillion, but I am going to tread lightly here and do the best I can. Joseph included all this stuff. He is a super fan. He was at this convention as well as many others. So I'm going to rely on his research. I didn't do any research on my own. I looked at all this stuff very closely. And we're just going to do that. There's going to be 10 songs, obviously, in the top 10. 2 of them are audio. 8 of them are the videos of these performances. So let's jump into this a little bit. Joseph says, beyond the music itself, one of the things that separates Marillion from most bands is the deep connection they have with their fans. This has existed from their humble beginnings right through their arena-filling mid-'80s peak and was a key factor in them initially surviving, then thriving through the 90s and into the new century, and along with the 1997 U.S. tour fund and tradition of fans pre-ordering albums a year in advance of release, beginning in 2001, significant enough that they're often considered the inventors of crowdfunding. The biggest part of that relationship comes with the mostly biannual conventions, which began in the early 90s. Initially held in the UK since 2007, the main convention has been held at the Center Parcs in Port Zealand, Holland. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Not Holland, Zealand, guys. And sees the entire facility taken over by 3,000 rabid Marillion fans from all over the world who share accommodations across 3 nights and are treated to 3 full Marillion gigs and numerous other events, band Q&A, pub quiz, signings. Over time, convention season has spread up to 5 locations around the world each time. Okay, so all that's well and good, but what's the particular significance of the 2011 convention? You read everybody's mind, Joseph. Well, aside from being a nice round 10 years ago, it was not only my first convention, but my second, third, and fourth ever Marillion gigs. He also says, for ease of reference, the lineup here, unchanged to this day since the lead singer switcheroo 32 years ago, consists of, with fan nicknames, Steve Hogarth, known as H, lead vocals, keyboards, guitar, percussion, and cricket bat. Steve Rothery or Rothery, a.k.a. God, a.k.a. Rothers. I don't want to mess that up, but hey, on guitars. Mark Kelly, Mad Jack, hey, I can get that one right, keyboards. And Pete Trewavis, Pete T, yeah, thanks. Yeah, Pete doesn't really have a nickname, not sure why, bass and backing vocals. We'll go with Pete T, and Ian Mosley, the president, on drums. So he says, on to the list itself. They did perform around 60 songs over the weekend. You can find their full set list at Marillion.com. So getting down to the 10 wasn't without its challenges, which is what every one of our patrons goes through. When you try to make a top 10, it is really tough because it's hard to get to those last few songs. But Joseph says he's going to present them not really as a top 10 as far as what's the best at number 1, but in the order that they were played over those 3 nights. So that kind of makes things pretty simple. So we're going to get to this list. Night 1, it was called Holidays in Eden Live. He said it's changed in recent years, but one night of convention was traditionally album night, in which a full album will be played straight through, usually in the right order, and as it was the 20th anniversary of the second H-era album. Fittingly, it was 1991's Holidays in Eden, fulfilling that role here. It has always been a slightly controversial album due to the pressure from EMI to produce a commercial album. It had 3 hit singles, pushing them into a poppier direction than some fans and band members were comfortable with. But the songs are great, so it almost worked. The singles all made the UK Top 40, though none could be classified as bona fide hits. Likewise, the album became their 6th straight studio album to debut in the UK Top 10. It's pretty impressive. I'd never heard of Marillion until Joseph brought him to me, but dropped down the charts fairly swiftly after, though it did manage to become the 75th biggest selling album in the UK that year. So not the new commercial heights hoped for, but hardly a flop either. First track, Splintering Heart, makes for a suitably dramatic opener, both on the album and in concert. But for the purposes of the list, we start off with the second track, and first of those singles to find the fans already well into things with, here we go. First song on this list, Cover My Eyes. This is one of the two that's going to be the audio only. Holidays producer Christopher Neal has been credited with the creation of this track after suggesting combining parts of Simon's Car, a demo from H's pre-Marillion group How We Live, with another piece the band was working on, and the result remains my favorite single in their entire catalog. That is quite the statement because, like I said, Joseph's a super fan. So I know there's a lot of info, but we're going to set the table because this is more about an experience than a top 10 list. We're reliving the 2011 Marillion convention with Joseph. Joseph, thank you always. I'm not going to have the lyrics up like I normally would because I'm going to be watching video and I can't do both. But this first song is going to be audio only. So I will check out the lyrics for this one. And guys, as always, the music and the video will not be in this YouTube reaction. It'll get blocked if it's in there and no one will be able to see it. But there is a link below. The whole thing will be uploaded. You can check it out there. Once again, thank you, Joseph. Well, there you have it. Cover My Eyes. There's actually an album, the Holidays in Eden live album that came out in 2018. Of the recording of them doing this at the convention. And that's actually where I pulled this off of. Sounds fantastic. The crowd is lit. A really, really good song. I absolutely enjoyed that. I will find it hard to believe I'll like a song better than that. I don't know if I'm unduly influenced by Joseph saying this is his favorite single of theirs in their entire catalog, but just a fantastic song. H sounds great. The musicianship is fantastic. The bass from Pete, the guitar work from Steve, just great stuff. Absolutely enjoyed it. The lyrics are just about this girl, right? That's what rock music's about, right? Half the time the lyrics are about the girl. She's like the girl on the TV with the red guitar, like the girl with the dealer at the end of the bar. She's like the girl with the smile and the dream in the dark, like the girl overtaking in the open car. The meaning of life, a hair falls out of place, cover my eyes, dangerous colors and shapes, and when she moves, cover my eyes. The whole pain in heaven, it can work out well. It can also be painful. Usually some of both, right? The pain and the heaven. Let's move on to the second track, Dry Land. It's the third single from the album and even more closely connected to How We Live, being the title track of their Soul album, released in 1987 and heard by Chris Neal by accident. As H later said, the only way anyone ever heard a How We Live track. As I hinted before, the band's intention was to play the album straight through in the order of original release, but earlier in the night, directly after H stated this, they played Waiting to Happen, which follows Dry Land on the album, a full 3 songs early, so this was slightly later in the running order than it should have been. Now you're going to see what you came here for, especially if you're a Marillion fan already. You're going to see the live version of this at the weekend. Well, there you have it, Dry Land. First thing I was struck by, the production quality of this is going to be fantastic. It looks high def. It looked exactly what I thought it would. Nice set, lit up a little bit behind, a little darkness, a little bit of smoke. Crowd is absolutely lit. I'm struck by seeing the crowd all crowded together into it, and the community that you have in that and that we've lost over the past year plus with COVID, and hopefully someday we can get back to that very, very soon. Great vocal performance by H. Fantastic guitar solo by Steve about 2/3 of the way through the song. The song is basically talking about his love for this girl. I was aware of the danger of making a bid for your favors. You're such a natural stranger. I made excuses and ran. You're an island, but I can't leave you all out at sea. You're so violent with your silence. You're an island, I can't sleep. Won't you speak to me? I'm on dry land. Won't you help me, please? He's in a drought, man. This girl will not talk to him. He's trying to get her to. He's begging her to. But just a fantastic performance all the way around, not just from H, but also the musicianship was great. So let's move on to the third song, Man of a Thousand Faces. Joseph says, with the Holidays album performed in full, including the 2 non-album B-sides from the era, there was time for a couple of unrelated encore performances, starting with this bouncy fan favorite and first single from their late 90s indie years. While with EMI, most singles did go top 40, this one didn't manage any better than number 98. The dense, vaguely incomprehensible lyrics, penned by John Helmore, regular contributor in the first decade of H's tenure, trip H up a couple of times around the 3-minute mark, so be looking out for that one. This doesn't mar a spirited performance. And as you noticed in the last one, guys, I chose not to have myself on the video, my little box down there, just because I don't want to take away from the visual of the band performing, and you never know how the camera angles are going to be, and sometimes you're in the way of the singing. I just don't want that. So I'm with you. I'll comment a little bit during the song, but you're not going to see my shining face, so you're welcome for that. There you have it, A Man of a Thousand Faces. Some great lyrics in here. I like that. I stole a fire, but it burned up much too soon. I took a leap and I landed on the moon. Look at my life and it looks like CNN, and H spells it out while he's singing it. You see something once, you know it's going to come around again. And the older you get, boy, you figure that out. And yes, I speak to machines with the voice of humanity. Speak to the wise with the voice of insanity. Speak like a leader with the voice of power and command. And when I talk to God, I know he'll understand, because I'm the man of 1,000 faces. And everyone is just singing along. And at the end, they really go in. The lights, H is down singing. Just a fantastic environment, and I really enjoyed these first 3 songs, and that ends night 1. So now we're going to move on to night 2, and night 2's theme was A to Z. But don't worry, Joseph, I know you gave me some help here. Friendly reminder that this letter is pronounced Z, so A to Z. Not how we do it here in the States, but A to Z. Let's go. Joseph says all attendees received a program of events on check-in, so we knew the theme for night 2, but there was debate as to what it meant. It seemed sort of obvious, but they couldn't possibly plan to do a set of 26 songs, one for each letter of the alphabet. It would be too long for starters, and there'd be tricky letters out there. He said, we shall see. So we're up to the 4th song, Especially True, originally from Happiness is the Road. He said his first selection from this night starts with an E and was indeed the 5th song played. So if you know your alphabet, which I do know that, you've probably worked out just why Mark had warned us that we were in for a long one. At the time, Happiness was the most recent proper studio album. The debate is whether it's 1 double album or 2 simultaneously released single albums has yet to be resolved. And this marked the live debut of this underrated track. Well, let's all enjoy it together. There we go. Especially True. First song from night 2. Get to see H play the guitar for the first time for me. Interesting song. Truth's always stranger than fiction, and here it's especially true. Here in the home of Miss USA, what's a wide-eyed English boy going to do? And then he goes on and talks about he really doesn't understand baseball, but he's quick with the U.S. cliche. People are cheering, but he doesn't know why, because he doesn't understand the game. Truth's always stranger than fiction. The cheerleader showed me around. You with the heart of the USA, and me with the spite of a small English town. So 2 different people, different cultures, but boy, girl still works. Central Park after dark, so he's in New York City. Is safe these days, depending on the game you play. Yeah, you still got to be careful, H. America, House of Blues, what do you know? Give me the news. America, shock and awe. Not anymore. Well, unfortunately, H, here in 2021, especially over the last few years, shock and awe, made a comeback. But he says, America, I'm ready for you. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. This American H will tell you to keep on rocking to the next offering, which is Jigsaw. And Joseph says they did not play 26 songs. The I ended up for intermission, but what turned out to be an excuse to get the band off stage so that they could return H-less for one of those Fish-era J songs. Pete announced in an H's absence, we need to sing this one for ourselves. Well, as it happened, no, not really. Despite the hardcore being present, a large chunk of the audience managed to come in late or turn out they didn't know all that many words to the song. It's a bit cringy, to be honest. Mercifully, the band never intended to play the full 7 minutes of the track. It's only about 2.5 minutes on here. So it was only the first verse we had to struggle through before we got the familiar chorus and the solo, which led straight into H's return to the stage for the K song, which was King. They swiftly got on back on track. That's why this video ends so abruptly. One of the reasons why Joseph said he put it on this list is that it's extremely rare for them to do any post-production fixes. What you see is what you hear, which is so refreshing, isn't it? It's exactly how it went down on the night. But in this case, we were so terrible that the crowd vocals have been replaced by a recording from the UK convention later that year. By which point some bright spark had printed off lyric sheets for us all to use. Yes, Joseph was there as well. Yeah, they figured it out, right? Learn from the mistakes. So they did have lyrics in, which is why it sounds so much better than I've described. And now you know why you see very few shots of the crowd actually singing. A much more successful Fish area sing along with H occurred later on with Sugar Mice, which was on this list for ages, but got bumped at the last minute because Joseph knows trying to come down to 10 is so difficult. Let's check out Jigsaw. Well, Joseph wasn't lying. It does end just boom abruptly. Not a lot to say about that. I mean, I get why it was put in here just to kind of give you a little bit of the experience. You could see the band kind of looking around. You could read their faces like, this really isn't working, but oh well, great guitar solo at the end. Let's move on. Well, we're halfway done. Now we're up to the 6th song on the list. Remember, they're not ranked. They're in the order that they were played. We got the release. Joseph says, another rarely heard live jam and a non-album B-side. We'll get to the A-side a bit later. That, as far as I'm concerned, should have not only made H's first album with the band, but should have been the first single of his era. There we have it. The release, another fantastic song. I am really enjoying this. Performances. The alarm by the bed, ring the dreams from my head, it's a new day. We the flakes in the bowl, milk unopened, I'm gone, but I'm still late. So he's just not starting out well for. Join the fight for a cab, take our place in the jam, and watch the clock again till the end of the day, right? He's just stuck in this, and so many of us are in this monotony of the days. Talking about a man in his head. I think he came from the screen or the Bible. All he wants is for me to be strong, but I seem to be unreliable. You know, it gets so hard when everything you are is everything you don't want to be. Whew. But at the end of the day, you're the one who burns it all away. The end of the day, you're the one. The end of the day, and some other little things in there. But man, I'll tell you what, H sounds fantastic. And by this point, even though it was a decade ago, he'd been performing for a very long time. And a lot of times the voice doesn't hold up to that on live performances, but boy, his does. Another really, really good one. And now we're up to song number 7, the Z song. Wait for it. So what did they do about X and Z, still pronounced Z, so it's really the Z song? I hear you ask. That's what Joseph says. Well, Ecstasy member Dave Gregory, who had played in H's solo band, was present as a member of the 10 Spirits who opened the night on that Sunday night, was on hand to join them for a cover of his old band's hit Senses Working Overtime to represent X. Well, the night ended with this, a fired up performance of the band's own Separated Out, with elements of Black Dog and Cashmere added to create Separated Out. Oh, yes. Well, there you have it. That was a great display of their instrumentation skills. I thought it was a fantastically done song. My least favorite so far, I'm just being honest, because hey, I'm always honest, but not a bad offering at all. And like I said, a nice showcase for everybody in the band. And now we're going to move on to the 3rd and final night. The theme was The Glow Must Go On. Joseph says, once again, we knew the theme of the evening in advance, but this time nobody had any clue what it meant. The answer was that for the majority of the set, the band would offer us 2 songs as choices and provided glow sticks to be waved enthusiastically in order to determine which of those songs will be played, along with cheering, of course, as the glow sticks lost their glow as the night went on. This usually worked pretty well, but the odd bump in the road did come along too. So our next track is going to be Beyond You, and this is one of them where we're going to have the audio only. What you hear at the start of this is at the tail end of the first bump, as we inadvertently discovered that in some cases the band was so confident of which songs the fans would vote for that they hadn't actually rehearsed the other option. And here they were surprised, and Joseph says, as was I, to be fair, by the popularity of Made Again. Great song as it is, over Beyond You. Probably in my top 5 Marillion tracks ever, but rarely played live. So they had to ask us a few times before the cheering for the right song matched the required level. So like I said, once again, we won't be going over to YouTube for this one. We will just listen to the audio, which means, as an added bonus, you get to see my shining face at least. There you have it, Beyond You. Really nice lyrics here. He's basically talking about he just can't live with himself. It starts out, if you were a baby, I would take you and run. I could hide you in the folds of my heart. There's a truth in the madness I can't get beyond, and a fever that won't leave me alone. I don't want my heart, don't want my head, don't want my friends, don't want my bed. I can't live with myself, can't take no help. I try to want to, but I can't get beyond you. And it just talks about this guy is down, man, and nothing makes it better. He can't live with himself. If I was a child, I would refuse to leave. I would sit down on the street, kick my legs, and scream, "I'm not much of a man, but I know how I am. I know this won't fade away. I will pretend and be strong, but I wonder where I belong." And that's kind of what most of us do, right? I know it won't fade away, but I'll pretend and be strong. Everything is fine. He says the feeling comes in waves, and it's almost more than he could take out. Took all you have, and I still want more, so I reach out to hold you, but all I do is hurt you. I can't live with myself. I really enjoyed the lyrics maybe on this one more than any other song that we've come across so far. And as I film this, we're about a month away from what the 9th song is, and that is Easter, originally from Season's End. Joseph says, here we encountered a different issue with the voting system, the votes for Easter versus the votes for the Great Escape. Both live staples, so performing either wouldn't have been a problem. They were too close to call. While the band were contemplating how to resolve this, a chant of both sprang up, but we were told explicitly, you're not getting both. As the applause died down at the end of Easter, another great chant of Great Escape went, and long story short, we got both, but you don't. We're just getting Easter here. An interesting thing that I've come across in the Waterboys Top 10, this was also inspired by a Yeats poem. Easter 1916 partly inspired this love song to the Irish people written during the Troubles. The line, "What will you do? Make a stone of your heart," directly lifts a key phrase from the poem, though as H has always maintained in reverence to his genius, not out of plagiarism. So it's a tribute, not a still. This was also the single, another minor top 40 entry that had the release buried away on the B-side and contains arguably Steve's greatest guitar solo of them all. There you go, Easter. As I look at the lyrics, not exactly sure what it's about. What will you do? Make a stone of your heart? Will you set things right? Will you tear them apart? Will you sleep at night with the plow and the stars alight? So, I don't know, forgive, forget, sing, never again. So different things, a little shout out to Out of the Port of Liverpool, bound for the north of Ireland, the wash of the spray and horsetail waves, the roll of the sea below. It's really all about just a performance. And once again, I will say H's voice, this is night 3, right? We're getting towards the end of 60 plus songs, whatever, that were performed. For him to have that kind of power and to sound that controlled and that good. And obviously I mentioned during this song, Steve's guitar solo, fantastic. So here we go. We're to the final track, and it is an epic track because it is over 11 minutes long. Happiness is the road from, of course, Happiness is the Road. The final song of the weekend, Joseph says, was again planned to be presented as a choice. I don't know what it would have been up against, but the band took no chances here. As Mark said to us, because you lot are mad, a bit rich, coming from Mad Jack himself. But they did have the confetti cannon set to go after all. So this was a fitting ending. And no, I have no idea what H is wearing or why. And so save another night of partying. 2011 came to a close. And looking back on it, it was at least as brilliant as it seemed at the time. No wonder I can't help but keep going back. What a great sentiment. Let's check out this final track. Well, what a way to finish it. Happiness is the Road. Maybe my favorite song on here. I don't know. It's kind of a tough race, but what a great way to end. You see the communal experience, right? Last minute and a half, 2 minutes. Everyone is just singing along louder and louder. The band, that smile on their face is not anything that can be manufactured. They truly, you can tell, love their fans. H even takes the mic and turns it around the other way in the mic stand for the end, which is kind of symbolic of I think of what they feel of their fans. Look, this is about you and not about us. So it starts out the first maybe 2.5, 3 minutes, more low key, and then he comes in and they kick up the instrumentation and the vocals get louder and stronger. But I enjoyed the start of it as well. You really get an idea of H's vocal abilities. I don't know what he was wearing either, man. It looked comfortable though, right? Maybe I'll go to my local neighborhood Walmart wearing that, but I'm not even really going to break down the lyrics. It was just such a enjoyable experience to end this thing off with. I always pick my 3 favorite songs. It's going to be Happiness is the Road. It's going to be the first track cover my eyes. Man, and that third one is really tough. I'm going to go another one from that first night, Man of a Thousand Faces. But you could really talk me into just about anything. That was a really fun experience, Joseph. Thank you for taking us along for the ride. I want to give a little shout out to Joseph because the write-ups he did and the way he put this together, I guarantee you this took a long, long time. I know this from doing this research and doing these all the time, the kind of work Joseph put into this. So thank you for doing that. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. And until next time, I will see you.